person, you go to Galut, if you kill a Jew, which would you understand? It means if a Jew kills a Jew unintentionally, he would go to exile. What is the Hakol? Everybody. The Gemara understands that the usage of the word Hakol is coming to add somebody. And now the Gemara is going to try to explain who is this Hakol coming to add. So that's what the Gemara is doing right now. The Mishnah made a statement, Hakol Golin Aydei Yisrael. If you look back in the Mishnah says, Hakol Golin Aydei Yisrael. Everyone goes to Galut by killing a Jew. And it says, Yisrael Golin Aydehem. And Yisrael goes to Galut if they go ahead and they kill those people. Those people that we just added, those people, whoever they are, which we're going to identify right now, the Yisrael will be vice versa. If the Yisrael kills those people, the Yisrael also will go to exile. Okay? So now the Gemara is going to explain Hakol Golin Ayedei Yisrael. La'atuyemai. What is it coming, those words of the Mishnah, by saying Hakol, who is it coming to add? La'atuye means to bring in, to add. You're coming to add someone. La'atuyemai. Who are those people that you're coming to add? So the Gemara says, La'atuye, it's coming to add Eved V'Kuti. An Eved, a slave, and a Kuti is from the Kutites, which we'll explain in a moment. An Eved we're talking about here is an Eved Kanani. Eved Kanani is someone who was a non-Jew, who was sold to a Jew as a slave, goes through the, so to speak, like the conversion process. He goes to the mikveh, you get the Brit Milah, and at that point, while he's an Eved, he's obligated in mitzvot like a woman. He's not obligated in mitzvot like a man because he's a slave. Most probably he's very busy working for the master. And therefore, perhaps that's why he's not given the mitzvot of a man of Talmud Torah, just like perhaps a woman busy taking care of the kids. She's not obligated in the study of Torah like a man is, right? You have different obligations. Isn't it Evet Kanani? A Jewish slave, if a Jew from birth sells himself as a slave, he's obligated in all mitzvot like a man, like before. Well, that's an Evet Ivri. But here we're talking about a Kanani. He's a non-Jew, and now he becomes obligated in mitzvot like a woman. Now you cannot marry this. An Evet Kanani can't marry a Jew from birth. Not allowed to. There's certain laws regarding the Evet Kanani, but this Evet Kanani is obligated in mitzvot like a woman. So if this Evet Kanani goes ahead and kills Hakol Golin, if this Evet Kanani kills the Yisrael, this Evet Kanani will go into exile. That's what we're coming to include. Hakol, meaning if a non-Jew kills a Jew unintentionally, the non-Jew does not go into exile. We're killing a Jew. But an Evet Kanani who kills a Jew, is obligated in mitzvahs like a woman, would go into we're running low on the battery again. Would go into exile.
Right? So that if you say alcohol, that means everything is in the alcohol, right? So when the man asking that 2 years is for what?
No, because the Gemara knows it's very good. The Gemara knows there's certain people that are not included in that. Right. But the Gemara knows Hakol will not include a goy. Hakol will not include a non-Jew if a non-Jew kills a Jew, because we unintentionally, because we know the law is not that way. So we know that Hakol is not coming to include everybody. Anybody who kills a Jew unintentionally goes to exile, because that's not a true fact. Right, Yaron? It's not a true fact that anybody who kills a Jew unintentionally goes to exile. So therefore, since that's not a true fact, so now when the Gemara says Hakol Golin, we know it's coming to include certain people, and we have to identify who the people are that it's coming to include. So that's what the Gemara. Nobody's saying they're trying to get in, they can't get in, right? No one sent to the chat that they're trying to get in, they can't get in, right? Okay, so that's what the Gemara. That's what the Gemara is saying at this point. Okay, it's coming to add somebody, correct? Just after any question. It sounds like yes. So we'll look into it. We have to look into it more. But based on the Gemara, we'll see. We'll look more into it. What? Yeah, but that wasn't for killing. That was more separate. Yeah, but that's not galut. It's a different thing. They have to stay outside the machaneh, outside the camp. But it's not the specific cities of galut and these type of things.
Rabbi, what are they doing though? Like
they live there. They're a city.
They have like a restaurant.
Yeah. The cities of the Levium. Levium live there.
Okay, so that's the case. Then if there's only one woman there, it's not good. A few women.
No, but it's only
Their families. The Levium have their families, husbands, wives, children. They live there. These are families of the Levium. And the idea is right. They're going to be in such a community with such holy people. So have a lot of rabbis there, have a lot of rabbis there, and there'll be a very good influence. He goes with his whole family, right? I mean, he would take his whole family with him. I mean, the rabbi. It says that. I mean, what should he say? He should stay there, and his family should stay somewhere else. I mean, technically, he does not. I mean, we'll see more in the Gemara. We'll talk about this. The Gemara is going to talk about the rabbi has to go to exile too. The rabbi has to go there. We don't know what that means, but the rabbi has to go to exile to teach Torah to the guy. Because the Gemara is going to say he has to be able to. He has to live there. Because if he's not going to have Torah, he's not living. He's missing in life. So the rabbi has to go to exile, teach him Torah. The rabbi has to definitely make stops on his regular. He has to. It's part of the rabbi's. A case. Very good. There's such a concept also. Person only learns from the person that he's comfortable learning from. So it could be that's part of the thing. We'll see more as we didn't learn about it yet, but we're gonna get there. Where's that Shem? So the Gemara says. So the Gemara says the following. La Tuye Evet and the Kuti. Kuti, as you know, the Kuti was a group of non-Jews who lived in the land of Israel, and they converted to Judaism. And there's a whole question regarding whether they really intended to really get rid of their Avodah Zarah, or they didn't really get rid of their Avodah Zarah. Did they really convert a proper conversion, or it wasn't a proper conversion? Are they called Gerei Emet? Are they considered true converts, or they're not considered true converts? So our Gemara, our Mishnah is going with the opinion that they were true converts. The opinion that says that subsequently later on, the rabbis found they had a lot of Avodah Zarah by them. The rabbis made them subsequently they're like goyim. You see, it says Kutim were goyim that the king of Ashur brought from a place called Kuta and from other places, and when he imported them into Shomron in Israel, after he sent the 10 tribes into Galut, and after they converted, and after these people lived, before they converted, they lived in Shomron, Hashem sent lions to attack these people. And, yes.
So who's the
One Harold. Two types of people will come into include. Evet Kanani. Evet comes to include Evet and Evet Kanani. Evet Kanani. That these people, if they killed the Jew, they will go to exile. If a Kanani and a Kuti, if they would kill a Jew, they would go to exile. Every Ivri, of course, if he kills a Jew, right, everyone he'll go to exile because he's just like every other Jew. Every Ivri The fact that he was poor and he sold himself to raise some money as a slave, or he stole and the court sold him, pay back money, he's obligated all mitzvot, like a Jew, the Eved Ivri. But here we're talking about the Eved Kanani. And the Kuti, after they were brought into Shomron, Hashem sent lions that were devouring these Kutim and eating them up. And they converted. But they did not keep all the mitzvot. They only kept, eventually, we saw they weren't keeping all of them. And the Tanaim, the rabbis of the Mishnah, had a dispute whether they're true Geirim or not. Now, at a later date, they found that the Kutim were worshiping idols. And from that time, the rabbis decreed upon them that they have the laws of Goyim. Okay, that's a little bit of history about the Kutim. But now we're going back in the time beforehand, before the rabbis decreed that they're like Goyim, and they have a status of Jews. So now, and we're coming to include them, we're saying even the Kutim, that we're gonna treat them like Jews. We're gonna say that they have a status of Jewish people, and therefore, Hakol, even them, if they kill a Jew, they will go into exile, like every other Jew that killed a Jew will go into exile. So even though it's a matter of question whether the Kutim should go into exile or not, because if they're Goyim, they will not go to exile. Comes our Mishnah, it teaches the Chidush that they do go to exile. They are considered with the Mishnah, the Tan of the Mishnah is considering them like Jewish people. And the Gemara says, Tanina laha de Tanarabana. The Mishnah, it comes out, Moni Ariel. Our Mishnah is supportive of what the rabbis taught in the Braita. What do you say? To that. Tanina, we learned in our Mishnah, laha, to that, the Tanu Rabbanan, that the rabbis taught in the Braita. So therefore, in the Mishnah, if you have a Mishnah that's supportive of the Braita, that's a very powerful, that shows you that the Braita is authentic and that the Braita is halachic, and it makes the Braita very, the Braita says a law, but if you could say that the Mishnah says that law, that will really give strength to that. That's a great support. You brought a great support for that Braita. Say that again. The Mishnah is holding they are Geri Emet. At this point, we're saying they're Geri Emet. They are true converts, because if they would not be true converts, then they were not going to exile. But if they're not a true convert, these Kutim, then they have a status of a Goy. If a Goy kills a Jew unintentionally, he does not go to exile. He gets killed. He doesn't go to exile. He gets killed. We don't shogeg, and man who kills a Jew unintentionally, he gets killed for it. Okay. So let's see the Gemara says, Tanina Hataravan Eved Vikuti. So here it's spelled out black and white. Just to bring Ariel up to date, we are on Chet on the base, 8B4. Which line are we on? Okay. Left side, right side, which side? Left side. Okay. So the Gemara says, it says in the Braita, Eved Vikuti, Eved Vikuti, a slave, an Eved Kanani and a Kuti, Gulet. They will go to Golut, Viloket, and also he would get lashes. We're going to explain that in a moment. And Eved Vikuti will go there, will go to Golut. Golut is the language of exile. He will go to exile, Viloket, and he will get lashes, Malkut, Al Yidei Yisrael. If the victim is a Jew, then the Eved will go to Golut, and the Eved will also we'll see what the case is when he will get lashes if he does something to a Jew. Meaning there are certain times the person does, what do you say? We're talking about an Evet Kanani, a non-Jew who was sold to a Jew. And once he's sold to a Jew, and then he goes to the mikveh, he accepts upon himself the mitzvot, he gets the circumcision. A non-Jew, a slave, you can't just have a non-Jewish slave by you. And he has to become Jewish. He's going to live in your house. He's going to be part of your. He's going to be Jewish, but his Jewishness is not complete. Meaning he's Jewish, that he's obligated in mitzvot like a woman, so it's like a convert, but he's not obligated in mitzvot like a man. The convert, so he's Jewish. You would call him Jewish. If it became, meaning he's not, meaning technically, a Jewish girl from birth can't marry him. Can't marry. I mean, there's certain things that there are certain limitations. He has to marry another shifcha. He can't marry. He can marry a shifcha. In certain aspects, he's considered Jewish, meaning he's obligated mitzvahs like a woman. In certain aspects, so but he's not obligated mitzvahs like a man. Meaning he doesn't have the mitzvah of Talmud Torah like a man has a mitzvah. He has like a mitzvah like a woman. Yes. I would think so. I would think more concern of your children and the other members that they shouldn't have a bad influence, a negative influence. Man, if you have it living in your house as a slave, 24/7, someone who does not keep Torah and mitzvot, someone who then it's going to be there's going to be clashes. Now, first of all, maybe he's not going to know, like you said, maybe he's not going to know the laws of kashrut properly. But also, I think that the negative influence on the members of the family, the children, and so on and so forth. If you have such a person living in the house, you have up to a year, I think, to go through the process. It's not finished. You can't keep them, I think. I think it's up to a year, what I recall, to make it happen. I really want to say something? What'd you say? The convert's on its own, but this makes him in a certain sense. Right. This is imposed on him. Exactly. You have to go in and do it. You want it. These are the rules of the house. The Jewish home. We have certain rules in the Jewish home. So then the brightest continues. Yisrael Goleh. Yisrael goes to Galut. V'lokeh, and the Yisrael gets lashes. Al yedei kuti ve'evet. Similarly, it's a two-way street. If the Yisrael kills the kuti unintentionally, or the Yisrael will go to Golut, Yisrael Goleh, see the language, Dr. David? He will go to exile, V'lokeh, and he also will get lashes. We'll have to identify what the case is in a moment. Al yedei kuti. If the Yisrael kills the kuti, or the Yisrael kills the Evet Kanani, he will go to Galut, and also there's a case that he will also get lashes, Malkut, as a result of what he does, of his interaction with the Kuti, and as a result of his interaction with the Evet. And he did something to the Kuti, he did something to the Evet, that will cause him to get lashes. We're going to identify what was the thing that he did. Yes.
They're all on the same status, meaning the evidence can why do we need the second line to explain it?
I mean to say this, there's a two-way street. Okay.
I would assume already from since they go, what do you need all these? That's why the Mishnah didn't say. That's why the Mishnah says this. No, the Mishnah didn't say that.
The Mishnah also said the two-way street. The Mishnah says Hakol Golin Ayidei Yisrael, Yisrael Golin Ayidei Hen. It says the same thing. the Mishnah finds a necessity to say, one of Mr. Cohen, to say that both ways as well. Meaning the fact that you say that we're going to treat him like a Jew, or we're going to be strict in one way, doesn't mean that that it's going to work both ways. So Dr. Navid is asking, why wouldn't it be sufficient just to say one, and then would we be able to figure out the other way? Okay, it's a good question. Let's see if it's going to be answered through the Gemara, or we have to research your question. It's a very good question. What's the necessity for both statements? Why wouldn't one statement be enough? Okay.
Directly, right? So now, probably we don't want to see the same for Israeli or for Eved Kenani. It should be like a stronger punishment for Eved Kenani, right?
But it's not, that's the first sentence. So every time it goes to exile. Now the question is, if a Jew kills one of these lower class,
He go to exile also at the same.
no,
Yeah.
we might think that he doesn't go to exile.
Right.
That's what's coming to say.
So I'm saying, so maybe like Yaron is saying, maybe that's the chidush. That meaning, first you told me that an Eved goes to exile and kills a Jew, right? That's the first thing. Now, once you tell me that the Eved goes to exile for killing a Jew, now would we say that the Jew who kills the Eved will also go to exile? Maybe not. Maybe you would say, if a Jew kills this Eved Kanani, maybe the Jew will be off the hook. That's what Yaron is saying.
And then it comes to say.
All right, correct. Now let's see how the Gemara explains. Bishlam, you have the Gemara, Mr. Batesh? We are on 8b4. Which column are we on now? Yarosham. Bishlama. Bishlama comes from the root of shalom. Shalom is peace. It's good. Bishlama Eved Gole Kuti Gole Ayide Yisrael. I understand the case. Bishlama means it's good. I understand. It's peaceful. Fine. It's understandable. Bishlama Eved Vikuti in a slave, an Eved Kanani, or a Kuti, or the Kutites. Gole Ayide Yisrael. They go to exile if they kill a Jew. Let's focus on the Eved Kanani. This slave who was sold to a Jew, non-Jew, sold to a Jew, and went to the mikveh and got circumcision. This person is called an Eved Kanani. He was sold as a slave. Interesting, we're talking about slaves today, right? As you know, today is some sort of holiday. So Bishlam Eved Kanani, Eved Kanani, Eved, I can understand the Gola Ayidei Yisrael, that the Eved if he goes to Golut through interacting, killing a Jew, or Loker, or the case of he gets lashes. Sometimes he'll get lashes, malchut, for something that he did to a Jew. So here is Loker. Now it's going to be a different case, two different cases. Two different cases, two different situations. So he'll get golot if he kills a Jew, and he'll get lashes for some other interaction that the Gemara is that he did to a Jew. Never get both. He doesn't get two punishments. He doesn't get golot and lash. It's not. No, they won't get lashes either. Lashes is not. We won't get lashes. No, lashes only in specific cases the person gets lashes. For unintentionally killing somebody, if let's say for some reason they don't go to exile, the punishment is not lashes. Every punishment has to fit the crime. The punishment has to be. It can't be less than the crime. It can't be more than the crime. It has to be exactly fit for the crime. So if we're not sure which is the stronger, if we have two punishments to give a person, we'll give the person the stronger of the two if he's obligated both punishments. So the Gemara says, Bishlama, the Kutim are a group of non-Jews that were brought to the land of Israel. They were in the land of Israel that converted to Judaism, and it was a question of whether they were true converts or not. Did they really convert properly? Did they really get rid of their idols when they converted or not? So our mission is taking the opinion that they were considered true converts. Others disagree, and they said they never were really true converts. Subsequently, they found idols by them, and the rabbis considered them like goyim. But our mission is at the point, this early stage, when they were still considered Jewish people. And they were careful in certain mitzvot. The Gemara in Chulin, we had a Chulin, says they were very careful in matzah. They were very exact in doing the mitzvah of matzah correctly, and any mitzvah that they were careful, and they were extremely careful. But the problem was they were picking and choosing type of people. Eventually, they weren't as careful in everything. So the Gemara says, Eved v'kuti gola Yisrael. The Eved and the Kuti goes to exile through killing a Jew. Loka and Loka, gets lashes. So now the Gemara explains, Gola, when would the Eved and the Kuti get exiled? The Katle, if they killed the Jew unintentionally. If they killed the Jew unintentionally, so what's the law? They go to exile. Loka, what's the case? That he'll get lashes, the Galatier, if he cursed a Jew. What is the law? The law is for cursing, if a Jew curses another Jew, the law is to punish, if he's warned and there's witnesses, he gets malchut, lashes. For merely, there are at least three prohibitions in the Torah that have to do with cursing. There's a prohibition to curse a judge. Included in that is blasphemy, cursing God. You're not allowed to curse God, which carries the death penalty. Cursing God, using God's name, cursing God's name. There's cursing a judge. There's cursing the king or a Nasi, and there's cursing the regular Jew. All these cases the Torah prohibits and carries with it lashes. So, but in order to get lashes, you have to curse with using one of God's names, like saying the Omer, God should punish this person. Someone wishes, and even if they curse in any language, they curse in English, Yiddish, and they say God shall do something. That would be a biblical violation if you put the word God. If someone curses someone and says he should DD, like the president recently said about someone, he should DROP, DEAD. If you say that, that's not a biblical prohibition because you didn't use the word God. But if you say God should knock him down, that's that you say the merciful one should not use one of God's name in the curse. That will be the biblical prohibition of cursing. So if the Kuti cursed the Jew, that would be a case that he should get lashes. Or the Eved, Nani, curse, just like if a woman curses anybody, and the Jewish woman curses a man, she gets, if she uses one of Hashem's names, that what Hashem is known for, in the curse, she will get lashes. The Gemara says, okay. Oh, so the Gemara says, what's the morning? What's the other? You could join us if you want. And the Gemara says, Eli, now we're talking about the other way around now. Eli Yisrael goleh, that which the Jew goes to exile, Viloka, and he gets malkut al yedei kuti, through interaction with the kuti, the Jew will go and get exile, and the Jew will also, under certain circumstances, he will get lashes. So now the Gemara wants to identify that case. Bishlama goleh, I understand the case that the Israel will get galut through his interaction with the kuti, the katle. If the Jew killed a kuti unintentionally, the Jew should go to exile. Ella loke amai. Why should he get malkut? If he curses the kuti, So what are you going to tell me? What's the case? The Latier, are you going to tell me why he gets lashes? Because he cursed the Kuti. But we know the pasuk says, "V'nasi ba'amcha lo ta'o." When the Torah says you can't curse a nasi, when you can't curse a prince of Israel, or you can't curse the king of Israel, it says, no, it doesn't say, it says ba'amcha. And the amcha says ba'adam ba'oseh ma'aseh. A person who acts as a Jew, a person who's an observant Jew, whose actions are in sync with the Jewish religion, that's the person that the Torah prohibits you from cursing. But if a person whose actions are not in sync with the Jewish religion, so even if you hold that the Kutim are true converts, but they were, by the time of the Mishnah, it was clear that they weren't doing everything that they were supposed to be doing. They weren't as Jews, according to the opinion that says they were true as converts. So being that's the case, so why should they get lashes? So how could the Braita say that they get lashes? If a Jew curses them, it should not be getting lashes. Amai, why? Amai, why should you get lashes if you're going to tell me because the Latier, because he cursed them, but they're not acting with Masa Amcha. They're not acting the way Jews are supposed to act. Now, some want to say that the fact that you can't marry, the fact that you can't marry this Kuti because, let's see, or let's say, one second. Okay, so we'll go with that. We'll go with that shot. So the Gemara's question is, the Kutim are not acting properly. If they're not acting properly, so therefore you should not get lashes if you curse them, because the only ones the Torah says, there are certain laws in the Torah that apply specifically to religious Jewish people. But if they're not acting as Jews, the Torah does not give you certain responsibilities towards them. Does it give you certain responsibilities? Okay. So you should not get lashes if you curse a Kuti. So why is it that it says that through a Kuti, the Jew from birth could get lashes? What's the case? How are you interacting with the non-Jew, with the Kuti, who is a true convert? What's the case? The Gemara is looking for the case that you would get lashes. So the Gemara says, Elo amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, I have a case. Kagon shehid bo. Let's say the Israel testified, the Jew testified about a Kuti. He testified that a Kuti is obligated Malkut. He testifies that the Kuti was born, let's say, not to eat pork. And the Kuti went ahead and he ate pork. And now what happens as a result of testimony that someone has ate pork? The guy gets lashes. A person gets lashes, Malkut, if they willingly ate pork, right? It's allowed, it's a lo saseh, and it gets lashes. Or if a person willingly used the razor blade on their beard, they used the razor, they were warned, they get lashes. They use the razor blade. And so he came to court and he testified, and then the court says, okay, based on the testimony of these witnesses, the Kuti is obligated lashes. And then after the court, let's say, made a verdict, walk in two witnesses and say, hey guys, you guys are with us. You say on that day you saw the Kuti eat not kosher food, or you saw him use a razor blade on that day, you were in a different town. You were a different part of the world. You could not have seen it. And they made the people, they zomimim. They made them into framers. So what's the general rule? You do to them what they wanted to do to them. They wanted the kuti to get lashes, so we should give lashes, malchut, to the Jew. So the Gemara says, so the Gemara says, if that's the case, the kavate, it would be similar to this, gabi evet, because in one breath we said you get lashes for what you do to a kuti and to an evet. So if you're going to tell me the case is that you testify that you framed the kuti, so the case that you get lashes by the evet knani would be if you framed a what? An evet knani. And the case would be and the case is both ways would be that, and also we said that if the evet knani gets lashes for what he does to the Yisrael, right? We said it's a two-way street. The Evet Kanani gets lashes, but if he does something to Yisrael. The Kuti gets, and they both get lashes, and they both get exile when they interact with the Jew, and the Jew gets both exile and lashes when they interact with the Kuti and the Evet. What did you say? So that's the Gemara again. The Kuti could, but the Evet can't testify. And Evet Kanani can't testify. So that's the Gemara's question. If you're going to, the Gemara says Evet, Evet bar edutu is an Evet. Can an Evet testify? A slave can't testify. So if you're going to tell me that the case is that we're talking about testifying against the Kuti, or the Kuti testifying against the Jew, and they were found to be framers. And then you're gonna, but it doesn't fit in by the colleague of the Kuti, because we listed the Kuti together with the Evet, and the Evet cannot be a case of the Evet testified against a Jew, because an Evet Kanani cannot see the fact that we group them together, the Evet Kanani and the Kuti. So the Gemara's understanding, whatever the case is by the Kuti, is the case by the Evet Kanani. So if the case of the Kuti is that you frame the Kuti, and therefore the other case would be when the Kuti framed you. So therefore, and then, but as he framed you as a witness. But the Gemara says, but you can have a case, you might frame a Kuti, you might frame an Evet, but you can't have a case that an Evet frames you. An Evet cannot have been a witness to begin with. If an Evet walks into court, they would not accept him as a what? As a witness.
So, like the first case, or where the Israeli
Who became a domain?
the Israeli.
He testified, he framed the Kuti.
Who make him become Israeli?
Other witnesses walked in.
But the Jewish one.
Jewish witnesses, right. Right, only Jewish witnesses are supposed to, not just, right.
Israeli say about this, that he was.
Yeah, and then another Jew came in and said, no.
Two other witnesses say, you were with me, right. Right.
So basically, I think the question is, what about if someone comes, another witness, and to contradict the first witness? Can he be not Jewish?
No, it'll always have to be Jewish. So the Gemara is going to answer like this. The Gemara answers, the case is not that they cursed the other guy. Not that the case was cursing, the Gemara says. What was the case? That one hit someone. If a Jew hits a kuti, or a Jew hits an Evet, and it was a type of hit that was not a loss of money, if he didn't cause any loss of money, that type of hit, and they were warned, they get lashes. But that's the case that you can get lashes when you hit somebody. If I warn you, don't hit him. If you hit him, you're going to get lashes. Now, if you hit him and you wound him, you pay money, you don't get lashes. But if you hit him and you don't cause him any loss of money, you get lashes. And that's the case that the Evet gets lashes, you hit a Jew. And the case of the Jew getting lashes by hitting the Evet is also if you hit the Evet. Okay? That's the Gemara. We'll see more. We'll touch on it tomorrow a little bit just to review that last point. Okay, have a great day, everybody. Thank you.